welcome back to my video. So today we are diving in the territory of women's fiction, or to be specific, chick lit. It's been a while since I read one actually. I used to love Sophie Kinsella when I was in school, and also I read others from Little Black Dress books. I remember shopping at MPH and Popular and just go straight to the Little Black Dress shelf. So I was quite excited to read this one. This is actually a recommendation for the KLBAC book discussion. And I was actually planning on recording the whole discussion and maybe put some interesting parts in this video. But alas, I got food poisoning, so I wasn't able to attend, so now it's just me. Here goes my review of Jasmine Guillory's The Wedding Date. So the synopsis goes, a groomsman and his last-minute guests are about to discover if a fake date can go the distance in a fun and flirty debut novel. Agreeing to go to a wedding with a guy she gets stuck with in an elevator is something Alexa Monroe wouldn't normally do. But there's something about Drew Nichols that's too hard to resist. On the eve of his ex's wedding festivities, Drew is a minus a +1 until a power outage strands him with a perfect candidate for a fake girlfriend. After Alexa and Drew have more fun than they ever thought possible, Drew has to fly back to Los Angeles and his job as a pediatric surgeon, and Alexa heads home to Berkeley, where she's the mayor's chief of staff. Too bad they can't stop thinking about the other. They're just two high-powered professionals on a collision course towards the long-distance dating disaster of the century, or closing the gap between what they think they need and what they truly want. This is actually a black girl and white guy relationship. It actually shows like that in the cover, and I didn't even notice. Here's the thing about The Wedding Date. 80% of the story is about them being horny towards each other and hungry for donuts. I'm surprised that I didn't see the donuts on the cover at all. You see Alexa, you see Drew, and what looks like a bottle of champagne. Although surprisingly, the story has a lot of donuts, and it's not a euphemism for sex. Although, okay, so the book is told in third person limited with dual POV. So the cover actually reminds me of Little Black Dress books, which actually kind of what intrigues me in the first place. Here, I mean, if you're a Little Black Dress books fans, then you should actually be familiar with the cover design. I have two more Little Black Dress books that I have no idea where it's been. I think it's just went missing. The story starts off really fast, it doesn't waste any time. We immediately jump in the scene where Alexa and Drew first meet in an elevator. So we see their first meeting through Alexa's perspective. And yes, even though this book has dual POV, it is still clear that Alexa is the main character. Their conversation contains a lot of banter, a lot of, innuendos, and boy, a lot of sexualizing each other. I mean, I don't think even Anna from 50 Shades of Grey is that horny for Christian. It is after that elevator scene that we get Drew's perspective, and the characters are both career people. They're successful and committed and supposedly smart, but well, there are some parts of the story that proves otherwise. They got chemistry and seems to be like well-adjusted adults. They seem to be living a pretty stable life. And after spending some time at the wedding, and after that, they both fall into this kind of long-distance relationship without actually defining what they stand for each other. And on the surface, it seems great. The premise seems pretty simple. This is like a fake relationship turns real, and then it's about defining what you mean to each other. So it kind of reminds me a little bit of Friends with Benefits and No Strings Attached, but with interracial couples. There's nothing much to say about this story thematically because, well, all I can say is that it is a chick lit romance and it achieves its goals, so I gave it 3 stars. I don't want to give it 4 stars because it's a bit too generous, and I don't think I can give it 2 stars because I feel like, well, the book doesn't really insult me. It's just well, let's get to the other parts. First of all, let's start with the elephant in the room. I didn't realize it at first, but Alexa as a character is apparently on the chubby side. I find it actually quite nice, you know, because it's not often that we get female characters that has less conventional looks. I didn't even realize about her, you know, her body until she mentioned about her belly and the fact that she's very self-conscious about her weight and stuff. So here's the thing about her physique. This is where the dual POV actually comes into use. From Alexa's perspective, she is very self-conscious on the way she looks, especially when she spends most of the time sexualizing Drew, that, you know, she's also become self-conscious, like, oh, Drew is so sexy, am I sexy enough for him? The dual POV allows us to explore this idea of insecurity and perspective. And then at the same time, we get Drew's perspective of Alexa, and that we see that from Drew's eyes, Alexa is perfect the way she is. It also promotes body positivity, and it's about being confident in your own skin. The way we see our flaws, the way we see like ourselves in the mirror is not the way other people see us. That this is also, the story is about, you know, perspective, and it's about owning who you are, and that even maybe to others you are not as attractive, but in the eyes of the right person, you're just perfect. On the other hand, unlike Alexa, Drew is confident about his looks. Also, unlike Alexa, he has been in multiple relationships, or should I say pseudo relationship, before he falls in with Alexa. I cannot recall whether Alexa has past relationship or not. Maybe I missed it among all the shameless sexualization of the characters. The thing about Drew is that he was honest about his intentions. He has no intention of committing. He has no intention of getting into a serious relationship. Another thing that I like about the dual POV is that we get a look on how miscommunication and understanding works. Despite speaking the same language and living in the same country, things can still get lost in translation, and even among so-called well-adjusted adults. However, despite like the good things that come with this type of POV, there is still some issues that I find. First of all, I understand that this is the author's debut novel, but I must say that Drew's POV feels really off for me. Now, I just don't think that he felt male. Now, before anyone gets all PC and then talks about gender fluidity whatsoever, or maybe because, you know, the writer is a woman, it's not about gender, okay? Because other than the dialogue, the narration or the supposed entity that narrates Drew's perspective just feels feminine. And I've always thought that, you know, when you are writing for a male's perspective, even in third person, you have to reflect that character. If the character is male and what kind of person he is, you have to reflect that in your writing. Again, I emphasize it's not about gender, because there are androgynous authors out there. There are female authors that can get in the mindset of male characters, and there are male authors that can get in the mindset of female characters. And I don't know if I'm not going to read anything by Jasmine Guillory after this, but I sincerely hope that if she ever going to write in a male perspective, then I hope that she improves. Another thing that bothers me about this is that how the relationship between the two just seems to have no tangible obstacle. It's just feel very superficial. There's no racial prejudice, there's no like beauty standards or jealous ex or skeptical family member. Although I could actually do without the jealous ex. I mean, like living in Malaysia, you have like literally every single drama out there will always have an obstacle in the form of a jealous ex, or basically a jealous third party, and it's get boring. So I'm really thankful that they did not do that. But they did have one character that I thought was going to be a person of consequence. Now here's the thing, the obstacle that they have for this story makes me miss the jealous ex trope. I mean, they're not offering something better. They're offering something that is barely even an inconvenience to the characters, that I actually wish that they made this character that they introduced for like 5 minutes to actually become a real obstacle in their relationship. The character appears for like 5 minutes in the beginning and then was never mentioned again. Even if the character is mentioned again, it's probably drowned amongst the shameless sexualization of both of the characters. It's like she's simply there to fill in the page. Alexa, being a black girl, has this kind of semi-fish out of water experience. I said semi because she works in politics and has excellent communication skills and really good at hiding her nerves, especially being the only black person in Drew's circle. I thought like something heavy is going to come out, like about her weight or her race, to add a little bit of that real tension in their relationship. But none of this ever came out because everything seems to be cool. I mean, Drew's circle of friends seems to be cool about her race, her body, you know, like even it's just the conflict actually comes internal. The rest of the people were very welcoming of Alexa. Everyone thinks she's hot, and the problem actually comes more from themselves. Alexa has this feeling of, you know, like she stood out too much because of her skin and then because of her body, and then she just keeps looking at these white girls who are skinny and wearing one of those backless dress that she thought she could never wear. And then Drew is having this conflict between wanting to be with Alexa and holding on to this whatever faith that he has. At first, when they introduced Alexa in this setting that she feels out of her element, I thought that they were going with sex education approach, where in that show diversity is treated like it's normal. But Jasmine Guillory also addresses racial issue through Alexa's backstory, why she's the way she is and her career goals. And then there's this whole conversation about Drew and his privilege as a white man. But again, something that is interesting, an issue that is really worth discussing, is quickly swept under for, I suspect, one of these reasons. The first one being Jasmine Guillory cannot handle anything heavy, or reason number 2 is that this book falls under the chick lit romance, so putting all the messy issues would probably add a lot of weight and kind of defeat the purpose of it being a light reading material. I feel like it's a shame because it would definitely make the relationship a lot more real to me. These two people are so well adjusted at their relationship to each other that it felt like the ending doesn't feel at all earned. They're so in sync and understanding on the demand of each other's careers that there's really no real conflict. Remember that they're in a long distance relationship. I was hoping for something like timing conflict or something, but no, everyone just seems pretty chill. Alexa's chill when, you know, he's immediately being called off, you know, for surgery in a hospital, which is actually a good thing because it shows maturity. But at the same time, you know, like I said, when you have nothing else to offer as conflict, then the relationship just feels really hollow. I thought that they're gonna put this issue with Alexa and her body and her self-conscious, and constantly it will be something like she has to, you know, overcome, you know, to gain more confidence in herself. But no, one sexy look and an erection from Drew, she feels gorgeous again. Great. In order to feel beautiful, you're going to need approval from a man instead of actually finding that confidence yourself. But whatever, good for her, but not good for the story. The major obstacle actually comes from Drew himself, because he's already established from the beginning. He even told Alexa that he never intends to commit. In a way, he is a good guy, you know? And he tells a story on how, like, even in the past, and he breaks it off with his past girlfriends, it's the way, in the nicest way possible, so that at the very least that they would still be friends, so that there's no hard feelings. And in some way, yes, it is a good thing, because better have civil exes than hostile ones. Also, another thing that I find a relief is that he is not written as one of those guys that doesn't want commitment because of a past trauma or past heartbreak, because I find that super cliche. Even though it's a cliche that I love, I mean, I kind of dig, you know, the idea that, oh, you don't want commitment because you were brokenhearted in the past. I mean, it's a guilty pleasure of mine, okay, sue me. Okay, but then again, like, even though I welcome this change that Jasmine Guillory put, yet at the same time, there's nothing else that she's offering, which that, you know what, you might as well just put all those cliche in here. It would make your story 10 times better. The problem of this obstacle in their relationship just feels more like an illusion. It's only then when towards, like, close towards the end, we get, like, you know, it took him 5 minutes to realize that he can't live without her, and, you know, and then you get the cliche reunion and the happy ending. Another thing is that there are moments in the story that feel like it was written for the sake of drama, but ultimately it sacrifices characters' consistency. For instance, like, there's Alexa, established to be an excellent communicator, someone who has ways with words, but then she chose to ask something important, a really important question in their relationship, by text. And for some reason, I find that really weird, because the real Alexa would have actually waited until they meet, or at the very least, video call him, you know? Skype him or something. But for some reason, for the sake of drama, Jasmine Guillory decided to say, hey, Alexa is going to text this guy about an important question that needs to be said, you know, face to face. It's like, everyone knows, and she knows that it's really hard to convey tone by text. And then she's the one that gets offended, both of them gets offended. It has become an unnecessary drama to pad the story. Even Drew is not free from this mistake, I tell you. Well, at the very least, his mistake comes, like, in the later parts of the story. You know, it kind of like to create some last minute tension. He's a pediatric surgeon, okay, and he's well known in his job and loved by all, especially his patients. Even though this is mentioned by his friend, he made a kid in his ward cry, even though it was established from the beginning that he's really good at his job. He loves his job. He has great rapport with his patients, and apparently in romantic comedy is that once a person goes through a breakup, they immediately become a shell of who they are, and, you know, they just lost all pleasure in the things that they used to find pleasure in. For instance, their job, because it was established that Drew loves his job, and because of that breakup, he's all of a sudden lose interest in anything else. And I just find this cliche is so annoying. Way to be professional, Drew. I think I'm especially mad at Drew in this aspect because he's a doctor, and aside from the breakup, he is a stable person all around. And I just find it really annoying how writers seems to write any stable person will become crazy immediately after a breakup, and it's just not fair, and I think it's simply unrealistic. Like, I am alone, boo-hoo. Like, Drew, one of your patients who is fighting leukemia, and you're suffering from your breakup? Seriously? Gosh, take your job a bit seriously, man. Being a romance novel, of course there's going to be, like, sexy parts. And I must say, I'm not impressed. No, I'm not expecting, like, a full-on explicit, you know, body stripper, erotica style bed scene, but I'm not going to tell you exactly how I feel, but I'm going to let Lily Collins demonstrate how I feel. want to say is that I think this book would actually benefit more with just one perspective. I mean, simply from Alexa's perspective. The story might be significantly shorter, but longer books does not always mean quality. Now, one of my criticisms was that Drew's POV wasn't that well written. Alexa's part wasn't that stellar either. If we don't get Drew's perspective, you can still get the body positivity message across, because we're only following Alexa's perspective of the relationship. Like, there's this sense of mystery that, does Drew really love her? Like, where's the relationship going? So we're wondering and questioning the direction of this relationship along with Alexa. It makes the ending feel a little bit more earned to me, instead of just, well, I already see it coming, what's next, what's new. Other criticisms that I have of the story, including the side characters, i.e. the friends, and they have like little to no consequences, and they're merely accessories to add flavor to the story of Drew and Alexa. We have the friend who gives fashion advice. You have the obligatory gay best friend and another hot friend to create inconsequential jealous moment, and a family member for backstory. And that is all my thoughts for Jasmine Guillory's The Wedding Date. There's not much to talk about thematically, but I think this book accomplishes what it's trying to be. I mean, it's not trying to be more, even though I think it actually could be more. If only the author just decides to add a little bit more depth to the character and not just them being corny to each other. But thank you so much for watching this, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye!